Hey guys, in this episode I'm joined by Gary Villarreal. He's an artist, fine artist, and concept artist known for his long graphite drawings. You've probably seen him around on Instagram. I've been following him for a long time and I'm a giant fan of his work. In this episode we talk about how he does what he does, how he got here, and his day-to-day anxieties of being an artist. By the way, if you'd also like to learn from him, he has a Gumroad that he just released about the more meditative side of drawing. He also goes through a bit of his process. If you'd like to learn from me, I have a mentorship that I host on my Patreon. If you'd like to learn more, check out the link in the description. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy the episad. Sick. We're all going. I appreciate doing this, man.
It's super cool, man. This is cool.
Yeah. Well, so the way I usually start this podcast is the point of this is not talk about how to become an artist, how to get better, or how to become a better draftsman or anything. I think it's more about the why of doing it. You know.
Yeah.
And with your stuff, like you have made a career out of doing like long graphite drawings, these like really intricate illustrations and. The general advice, I think, from people is not to be an artist, you know?
Yeah.
And
the exact opposite, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a big part of being a person is like leaning into the things you care about most versus like doing the things that are like common knowledge or common sense almost, you know? And it's really cool looking at your stuff and seeing how like you have a pretty large following on Instagram and stuff. And from like essentially doing the things that you care about, you know?
Yeah, for sure, dude. And it was almost like the side things that, the work that was done after work, you know?
Yeah.
That's
right.
That's what really stood out. And I think it was like an exhaustion, you know, from work that I just wanted to vent out, right? To really focus.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, this is
nice. Sorry.
Anyways, dude, like I like the conversation that we were having earlier.
Right.
And I don't know how you tailor all this, but
I mean, it's all just a long format sort of thing,
sure.
And I think it's I don't know if people really get a good look at their like favorite artists online because they get to see, you know, they see like the almost like the best version that's presented.
Yeah.
It's like they don't see the mistakes for drawing and stuff, and
isn't that so deceiving?
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, it's like everyone has bad drawing days, and they have days where they feel like, oh man, I shouldn't have become an artist. This is a waste of time, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's like part of this thing is like to humanize the people that other people might idolize to a degree.
I wonder if the bad drawings come from a period in somebody's life that, you know, maybe they're going through a rough patch and it just like comes out through their art, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like art is, in a sense, it's a filtering system.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to be going all over the place.
Oh, yeah,
so please wrangle me.
Oh, yeah,
wrangle me back, right?
absolutely.
And if I start sweating, understand that.
Oh yeah. I'm down to open the door as well. If
you could. I was thinking to myself, okay, we have about 30 to 45 minutes before it starts really cooking.
I don't mind moving the van if it becomes really bad.
No, this is good. Dude.
So for anyone listening, we're in we're in Texas right now, and it is incredibly hot out. We're in the van.
For the morning time, right?
Yeah. It's in the morning. It's not that bad, but later in the day it gets like 110 degrees or something. But,
that would have been nice, right? To have a little sweat session.
Oh yeah.
Hot yoga.
yeah, right. Yeah, to try and sauna it up and willpower through.
No, hell yeah, dude.
But yeah, and I think we've been talking a little bit off the podcast just about creativity and you know, inspiration and all that stuff. And to me, it seems like the most valuable resource that people have isn't like their money or even their time to a degree. It's like their focused energy doing the things that they really care about.
Yeah. And focus is really hard to find though sometimes, you know. And I know for me the focus after having a baby, it kind of like blurred out a little bit, right? And I don't know if this happens to everybody that has a baby or we're just going through a little rough patch in their house, but like in their life. Yeah. But that focus ends up having, it just seems like to disappear for a little bit, right? And I almost feel like we all go through that system of limbo, right? I don't know if you've ever been through a phase like that before.
Yeah.
You know, but it's interesting to find your way back, right? And it's one of those things that I'm currently going through, like trying to find my way back to the promised land. You know, dancing with the muse kind of thing,
right?
You know, so.
Yeah. Well, I think life is actually very simple fundamentally. Like the things about like, you know, don't lie to people, like do a good job, like work hard, do the things you care about. It's really easy, or it's really simple advice, but it's all about like expanding those parts of your life to more and more complicated things as you get older. So it's like you start with your life and you start like, oh, can I take care of myself? Can I think of just myself? Can I exercise, eat well? make art, make money, all that kind of stuff.
It's also easy to complicate as well.
100%, yeah.
Especially once you start comparing yourself to people, or you start doing things where, it makes you question your own abilities, right?
Oh, yeah,
That's when you start fucking up.
Yeah. Well, I think comparison is the root of all anxiety.
For sure.
Ways, it's like,
I know you were talking about anxiety earlier, right?
Yeah,
right. With everybody.
Well, I remember I went to a party once, and Billy West was there, the guy who did the voice for like Fry and like Bender and all those dudes. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and we were talking to him, and he was talking to us about how like, he's like he's like 70 now or something, so he's an older guy, and he was like saying how silly it is that people feel the rush to do anything. Like, I'm almost 30 now, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be all yeah.
You're gonna hit 30, and when you wake up, you're gonna realize.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. I'm gonna so if I look at the cameras.
No, you good. I'm doing the same thing. You got it right at me. But when you hit 30, you're gonna realize like your body starts aching and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But what I started doing recently, talking to that last artist you were talking about, I started like envisioning myself as like an older man, and like, what would I, if I was like in my deathbed kind of situation, what would I do differently, right? And I try to implement that into what I'm at right now. Like I try to close my eyes and then, take a deep breath and I'm like, wow, I'm in this moment now, and I'm gonna try to do my best, whatever I, what that future me was envisioning, right, for his past.
Absolutely. Well, a question I ask everybody is, would you be doing the same exact thing you're doing right now if you had $1 billion?
If I had $1 billion, partly, yeah.
Yeah, well,
I would. Like on the side, yeah, I would.
Well, and it's like I couldn't pay you to like stop drawing and being creative and stuff. And I think, but like obviously there's things that everyone would stop doing if they had $1 billion. But there's also like things that you would do no matter what. That's like that's just ingrained into your personality.
You know what I would do? Honestly, hike and just be out in the wilderness if I had $1 billion.
Yeah.
And then maybe make art out there, scratching on pieces of wood or something like that. I see myself, I think, like in that sense, I'm so, lone wolf. Like I love being alone out there, you know. And I've done it a couple of times. I've done it a couple of times and I just enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
And that's what, in a sense, what art gives me as well. Like, so when I'm out there, my mind is quiet. Right. And when I'm painting or drawing, I'm just quiet.
Yeah.
And it gives me that little isolation that I need throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Throughout the chaos that we have, right, in our daily lives.
Well, I think the goal for most people I know is to get to that point where they're not self-conscious. And it's not the art you create or anything. It's like the enviable thing is the mindset. And the quality of the art is just like a symptom of you being in that mindset.
But I almost feel like to get that quality of art, you have to sacrifice a long period of time in the beginning, right? Like you have to go in the trenches in a sense. And to get yourself to that level where you feel comfortable, right? Or finding your voice, the voice that kind of goes in and out,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what I've noticed about myself, right? When I ended up moving out of Los Angeles, and I was devoting so much time to my graphite work, right? So after work, I would go home and I would just work on myself, like, dude, hours, right? And my wife, she tells me now, do you think that if do I have a shiny forehead?
No,
big forehead, bro.
I could open the door.
No, you good, dude. I'm gonna sweat, but I mean, I'm so used to this.
Okay,
I'm worried about you. I want you to fall.
No, I'm fine. I'm good. Yeah, I'm doing fine.
But yeah, she asked me the question, like, do you think you would have been in this situation if maybe you didn't devote so much time earlier?
Yeah.
And I said, hell no.
Yeah.
And I feel like I put myself in this place now.
Yeah.
But I want to focus on the future, like maybe 5 versions, like 5 versions of I said, 5 years of it. And I want to focus on that person, right? Versus what I'm doing now. Because the seeds that you sow now, it takes years for it to actually see the fruit, right?
Yeah.
And I see that from what I did earlier and that where I'm at now.
Right.
But it's funny because like I almost want to now, I've been pushing more of my digital work.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get that up to par, and that's been pretty nice, especially over the years where I've been just painting, doing concept art, and that's been helping out a lot. And with a little mix of like illustration, that's illustration work honestly is like heavy lifting too. So that's been nice.
Yeah. Well, again, I think for a lot of people that like trying to get to that level where you're making money and a living off your art, it's like it does take quite a bit of sacrifice and grinding, and and I think you have to be in a mindset where if you're given the option of like skydiving or eating birthday cake or whatever, you choose drawing over doing like the cooler thing. And I think that's why it's important to find your why in doing it, because it's like, if you don't have a reason to take advantage of like all the resources around you, or classes, or even just drawing on your own, you're never going to want to do it.
With the environment around you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's funny because if you're not around that, I mean, you can have the internet, like the internet it opens up the environment a little bit, but I said not worry about that chorizo taco, man. But if you're not there with people, it's a different experience, man. Like, for example, if you're going to conventions or like Lightbox or anything like that, or a place where you just start meeting up with like-minded folks, and if you're not doing that enough, you're gonna feel isolated in yourself, and you're gonna end up just, in your own box, and I don't think you're gonna be developing as quickly as you would want to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think art is just communication. You're just trying to communicate really cool ideas and stuff. And if you're in a in a vacuum, it's impossible to create stuff. I think
for real.
Like you need some amount of input to get started.
And it's really interesting when you catch yourself in the vacuum. Because you go in there not knowing sometimes, right? And I feel like with the whole pandemic and working from home situation, you end up in that situation without even knowing. Right. And I feel like lately I've been in that thing. And trying to find my way around it. So, meeting, with you and other artists, it's real refreshing. Like doing these little art battles that I'm doing lately. I mean, they cause a lot of stress, but at the same time, it's so, revitalizing to my soul, I guess, kind of like brings it out again.
Well, I think people are meant to do brave things and things that are kind of against the norm. And I think that like somebody's ability to lean into what they truly care about is the thing that actually makes them successful inevitably, And I think that we get caught up in the shoulds. Even with art, it's like, oh, I should be doing more studies. I should be doing more figure drawing. Dude. I should be doing all this stuff instead of like doing what you really want to be doing, which might be like crazy, weird illustrations or something, And
what if it's like something non-art related?
Yeah.
Because I used to do golf. I used to play golf while I was, drawing and studying. That was my way of venting, like kind of going off of something different, right?
Absolutely.
It's almost like a hobby in itself. You got to have a hobby within a hobby sometimes, especially, let's say art was a hobby and then it started becoming, a money generating machine. You need something else to...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like for me, like some of the advice I've gotten from people is to not do what I'm doing right now, is to like not travel, not trying to do this stuff. And like, I want to do this stuff fundamentally. And I think that like there are no rules to creativity. And I think drawing and all this, the way I'm traveling is like fundamentally very related. It's not like academic or anything, but it is something that I'd regret not doing if I...
It's like a different journey path, like a path for your journey, right?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
And I think you were talking about like, going into concept art and how, everybody has a different timeline,
Yeah.
And,
all right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep on calling you.
When I look back,
If you see me like this, I'm just kind of trying to stretch my neck.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's the whole divine timeline, right?
Yeah.
Some people want to be art directors and they end up being art directors when they're 40s or 50s.
Yeah, right.
Some people are, a freak of nature and end up being amazing artists at 19.
Right.
But I wonder if you reach that stage at a young age, do you plateau quickly?
Yeah, well, and I think personally too, it's like, if you're a great artist at 19, maybe it's like, oh, there's no reason, like I should be working as a concept artist. I'm so lucky I should be doing that. And you might be a great artist, but you really might want to travel or like play guitar or golf or something, and that internal pressure of wanting to do it in spite of the like, or I guess not wanting to do it, but then having that external pressure and doing it anyways is like, I think it hurts your soul. It actually might make you burned out from art,
Oh, hell yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
Especially with how that balance,
Absolutely. Well, I think being good young is almost a curse as well, because, you get a lot of the external validation that everyone craves very early on.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a long time to develop that internal like reason to do it, you know? So if you're doing a lot of really great work, you're getting a lot of external validation for it, and you actually stop caring about that, then you'll stop drawing because you don't want to do it anymore. You know?
What do you think people now are creating to get the following? Like, you know, so, you know, back in the days we would draw and paint, and we wouldn't even post, right? And you were doing it based on the validation on the people around you.
Yeah.
And do you think that it might have like kickstarted, like Instagram might have, or social media might have kickstarted the progression of an artist, like, or the development
100%.
of artists, like the fucking speed dose through everything now?
100%. I think humans, again, we're social creatures, and having like that stamp of approval from, oh man, 50,000 people follow me, or they liked my thing, or whatever. That's like an addicting thing to.
It is.
And I think it's actually like human nature. You know, it's impossible for that to like not let your brain affect that. You know.
Yeah.
And I think the goal for us is to like get to a point to where we're like acknowledging it, but it's not controlling our creativity.
I would definitely recommend, if people have a big following, to stop posting.
Yeah.
And see how you react.
Yeah.
If you see yourself kind of like antsy, right?
Right.
And you start feeling the pressure of, oh, I'm not putting out, you know, that's when you know you're addicted.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reason why I say that is because I was doing that, right? Yeah. I stopped back in January, and I was like, I need to focus my time a little bit, you know, with work, especially with work. I choked in my water.
Yeah, if at some point it gets too hot, by the way.
It's getting a little steamy.
Yeah,
so if you want to open it up. Like,
yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, I'd rather have that. Get a little sun.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, I'll throw on this hat. Actually, I'll survive.
Let me borrow your hat.
Yeah.
Nah, this is a really cool hat, by the way.
Yeah. I got it from a friend.
Yeah? I don't have lice.
Oh, yeah.
But if I do, look at that. I have a thin ass head. Oh my God.
You have a nice head.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Oh, this is dope. All right.
Nice.
Yeah, when you said 9 o'clock in the morning, I was like, you know it's going to be a little hot.
Oh, yeah. I'm not quite used to the Austin craziness.
You're going to have that trucker.
Yeah.
That trucker tan, where it's like one side of the face.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Burning,
You're right.
Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Those pictures of truckers that, you know, they've been working years, right? And they have like one wrinkly side of their head.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like one side of my, like one arm is like a slightly tanner than the other. Yeah. I can't really tell, but I think this one is tanner because I put my arm here when I drive.
Yeah. You got the left hand, like, yeah. That's so interesting, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry about the heat.
No, I'm sorry for detouring on that too. I just really love this hat, so I might just end up taking it. I'm kidding.
No, if you want to take it, you're totally welcome to. Actually, I don't really wear trucker hats. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
I wear trucker hats left and right.
Yeah. I'm like a dad cat kind of dude.
Well, you got the good hair, man. So don't worry about it.
The dry hair.
But yeah, going back to that you know, the not posting or knowing if you're addicted or not.
Yeah.
You know, definitely recommend people doing that for a little bit and seeing how they react.
Yeah. Well, and I think you know, I talked to a lot of friends about the idea of Vanity Metrics, where it's like, you know, if you get like 10,000 likes on a post, it feels really good, but it might not like help your life financially or practically and stuff. And I think it can be really easy to start chasing those highs and kind of ignoring your own, you know, personal development or something and stuff.
Totally, man. And I wonder how it affects, like if you have your own family, right? Would it give you a sour taste in your mouth? Mouth. If it didn't, you know, your post didn't do well, will you be sour towards your family? Kind of, you know. And those are all just personal questions, personal things that go within a modern day artist.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I feel like everyone always has like a thing that they have to deal with for their generation, you know. And I'd rather live now as an artist versus like 100 years ago, where you had to be chosen for like a magazine cover type job or comic art or something by a select few kind of people.
I always ask this question to people that I meet, and they think I'm just too philosophical or whatever. And it's a simple question, like, you know, what's the Ango, right?
Yeah.
What is our Ango?
Yeah.
When it comes to creating. Do you want to create all your life, or do you want to be a stripper later on? I don't know,
right. Well, and I think the answer is like, you know, it could be whatever, you know. I think as I'm getting older and traveling and seeing the world. You could be whatever you want. You know, it's like you could tomorrow decide you want to be like an Air Force pilot and just like start doing that instead.
But what about the persona that you created online, right? People perceiving you as an artist, right? And then all of a sudden you start going hunting. You're a deer hunter now,
right?
And
well, I think in a lot of ways, like people's idea of you doesn't exist,
right?
You know, and it's all like, you know, arbitrary nonsense where even online people see this idealized version of you. They only see the artist, but they don't see the dad or the son or the husband or you know, the guy that plays golf. You know, they see a very like simple abstracted version of you that is very far from the reality, you know,
the rawness, right?
Like even then, like you might show like 10% of your drawings or something, you know, like
that's true. I mean, actually, I have a lot of junk in there.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I mean, I like seeing those kind of pieces, and they help future pieces.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And sometimes I just want to start posting crap. You know, on Threads or even on Twitter. You know, just start posting just random ass images,
try out stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, like I haven't really put a lot of work into my Instagram following at all, and I have like 800 followers on Instagram for my art account, and I put out a post that I was actually pretty proud of, and it got like 40 likes or something. And I was like, oh, dang, you know, it kind of made me feel bad.
Well, the numbers become relative, right? Like, if you're so used to having thousands, and then, you know, you get 2,000, it's not really much anymore, right? Well, back then it was like 600 was enough for you.
Right.
It's so weird how your mindset changes that way.
Absolutely.
Same goes with like the stock market or anything like money related, right?
Yeah.
If you start, you know, you're selling gumroads, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. And, you know, you put out a video that you thought it was going to make, you know, 2,000 and all of a sudden it made 10,000.
Yeah. Right.
What's addicting?
Yeah.
Right. Ooh. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I talked to Stan Prokopenko about this once, and he was saying like once you have it, you're bored of it, you know? Like even if you're making, you know, $10,000 off a video or something, you're like, oh, okay, you know, how do I make 100,000 or something?
That is insane.
And
we lose that perspective.
Yeah. Well, and I think gratitude and comparison, like being gracious for what you have and all that, I think is like, I think that's what makes people happy. And then not comparing yourself to other people. You know,
I've always found it interesting, the turning point of a person. Like what made them take that path to artist, like to become an artist or to become anything, honestly, right? Do you have a turning point? Like what made you start traveling like this? Was it like a specific, maybe you had a breakfast and all of a sudden you looked up and there was a little mockingbird that looked at you and started talking to you and said, hey.
I think it was just like growing up around my dad and meeting some like really badass artists and just seeing how like, oh, what they really want to be doing is something else other than sitting at a drafting table all day. You know? And then like just seeing how big the world is, it's I think the only thing really limiting us, I think, is our own vision. Like
totally.
Like an analogy I use all the time is like, if you look at that tree over there, it's just a tree, or you can cut it down and make an oar out of it, or like an axe handle, or something to build a house, or a sculpture, or or it could be anything that could be made out of wood, or it's just a tree, and it's all dependent on like our own background, what we care about personally and stuff. And like we go around the world and we see things and we create meaning out of nothing. I think the way, like, I really wanted to learn who I am and what do I value, and trying to go around the world and like pay attention to what I'm paying attention to. I found that like no matter how hard I try, it's like hard to get into like abstract art for me in the same way.
Why is it?
It's just not what I care about, or it's like when I walk down the street in a new city, like I pay attention to specific things. I'm looking for specific things, you know.
So you're being real mindful of those, you know, how selective you are, right? Because that's part of you, right? Trying to find out who you are is one of those challenges that a lot of people go through. And I almost feel like what you're doing, I think, is a good recipe, because you're putting yourself in these situations where, you know, but you got to be mindful though. But you're putting yourself in these situations where you react in a certain way, and like, okay, I see why I'm reacting that way. I'm that kind of person, right? And it's funny because I went through a little moment this past week, and I went. Sorry,
sorry, it's good.
So this past week is funny. I went to New Orleans, right? And my wife and I, we were walking down the street, and there's this guy, this random dude comes up to me and goes, "Oh, you got some pretty shoes, man." I think they need a shoe shine. I was like, what? No, I don't. Right.
Yeah.
But he still went down. He put a little goo on my shoe and started like, hey, put your shoe on my knee, right? Let me clean it for you. I was like, all right, whatever, I do it. Right? Yeah. Started following like a little lamb, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he said, now you owe me $20. And he started getting aggressive. I'm like, what the hell? Why is he charging me $20 for a shoe shine?
Right.
So I inevitably like paid because of course, I'm a nice guy and stupid. Yeah. But what I learned is actually stop people from doing it. Right. Absolutely. Like, dude, if you don't want to do it, don't freaking go through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So I learned that a part of me is I could be a sheep, and I think we all have that.
Absolutely.
But I just wanted to stop myself now and like really analyze myself and say, no, there's something that you got to change, right? And it's so simple how it had to be a shoe shining situation where I had to realize that. Yeah. Some people realize that when they're in the studio setting where, let's say they had a dick art director and they don't know what they were talking about. Yeah, exactly. And you as an artist, you're like, okay, I do it. There's got to be a certain point where like, dude, no, it just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. And like being strong enough personally, like draw boundaries and understanding yourself and understanding your own weaknesses. And there's like nothing wrong with like, like what you just described. It's just like an affect of somebody's personality, And for me, it's like understanding like, how would I react if I was like, because I'm technically homeless legally, if I'm like sleeping in Brooklyn, like how do I react to that? Like sleeping on the streets or something, or how do people react to me? And
does it affect you?
I'm sure it does.
Like subconsciously.
Yeah. And it's like like you really don't know yourself until you put yourself in a bunch of different situations. And like, what would you do with a lot of money? What would you do if you're poor? What would you do with like?
So when you ask that question about a lot of money, again, if you don't know yourself, you're not going to answer that question correctly.
And it's like maybe it's actually a dangerous thing to have a lot of money for you or for anybody, because it's like, maybe you would just try to be a people pleaser and and like make everyone else around you, happy with you, because like if you have $1 billion, you're likely the most successful, famous, just like whatever person in your social circle.
Or it could be tobacco money from back in the days. Right? Like it was trust money or stuff like that. That could be a big one. So I'd rather have or hang out with somebody that got their money self-made versus like, I don't know.
Try to inherit it.
Yeah.
I think
it's different, man.
I think people can be self-realized with a lot of money, but I've met tons of anxious rich people, and it doesn't make you any happier, And I think it's one of those things where like happiness is like we could grasp it right now if we really knew ourselves really well, but it's right in front of us at all times. It's just we don't want to look at it. It would take some really uncomfortable,
very uncomfortable, vulnerability, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, speaking of vulnerability, I think of tiring people out by trying to become vulnerable. Yeah, but I've noticed that a lot of people don't like being vulnerable, right? Yeah, but I almost feel like it's a muscle that you have to work out, right?
Absolutely.
And the more maybe I have a real pressuring way of like being vulnerable, like making people not do things, but like open up to me,
Right.
But I love having those kind of conversations where, people maybe talk about stuff that they're afraid of, but I almost feel like those kind of conversations happen through like at night or when people are more relaxed, right? Yeah. Versus morning time, unless you do it like right when you wake up, where you like kind of like lucid, dreaming or whatever. But who's gonna come into your room and like, hey Gary, you want to have a conversation with me? Please ignore my sweating. I sweat a lot, but this is normal.
Oh, okay, cool. Right? Okay, yeah.
So you're gonna see like a waterfall. I mean, I'm already smelling like burnt bacon right now. It's okay.
I feel like it's part of the podcast, honestly, because it is kind of uncomfortable. Like I've recorded podcasts where it's like raining and it's super shitty outside and stuff.
But it's dope. It's raining.
Well, I think again, it's like it exposes people's like everyone's vulnerable. Everyone sweats. Everyone poops and stuff.
So in a sense. So the heat right now, it's funny. It's playing a weird thing in my brain. My brain is like, have you ever seen that movie Blade?
Yeah. Oh, I know of Blade, but I've never seen it.
Well, there's a scene where there's like this huge, obese vampire, right? And Blade goes in and they're they want to get information from him, and he just like has this UV light and just fucking spraying.
Yeah.
And he's like, ah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's how I feel like right now. So my brain is like, ah,
yeah.
Right. My leg, my feet is burning, right? And but then another part of me is like, the conscious side now is focusing on that, where now I'm like talking pure, just a stream of consciousness, right? It's so weird. So I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
And when I get that fresh breeze that comes in, I'm like, oh, I feel it in my foot. Like,
it feels awesome.
It feels good.
Well, I don't think life is meant to be completely comfortable, you know. And
is it meant to be comfortable?
No, it's not.
Oh, I was going to say like, oh no.
Well, but even with $1 billion, if you had $1 billion, you could, you know, drink margaritas on the beach every day.
Why billion? Why is that number specific?
Because it's like such an absurd amount of money that, like, you could never spend it personally on yourself. You know, like I couldn't, like, I could never spend $1 billion on myself. You could just spend an obscene amount of money on yourself every day and never run out.
Isn't somebody describe how $1,000 is equivalent to like this size of a
like a penny or something to a billionaire?
$1 billion is like freaking Jupiter next to a penny.
Oh yeah.
Like,
it's like insane how much $1 billion is. You know.
And it's insane. Like, you know, you see all these billionaires, and I don't even want to go down that path. You know, like of conversation,
the ethics of it.
Yeah. But I do realize that if an artist does have money, and they're not stressing out, and we talked about this yesterday, how stress has a ability to either you know, crush you creatively, or B, push you even further. Right? Like, it depends how you channel that energy.
Well, I feel like it's always your decision, you know. A lot of it, like, it's a lot easier said than done, and there are definitely times when I make the wrong decision, but you know, it's like I think it's all perception. You know?
I mean, you might be going through a lot of house issues from home, you know, and that's gonna be affecting you. Like, what if, you know, you got some domestic violence at the house, and you know, you're not gonna be painting.
No way.
There's no way. You're in survival mode the whole time. And and it's sad because I almost feel like there's so much untapped creative abilities out there. Right?
Oh, 100%.
Like, even if you go to third world countries, like I'm pretty damn sure you give them the same setting, economically speaking, food, all that crap, right? And I'm pretty sure they were gonna chase the art dream. They might kick ass.
Well, they'd get further than us.
You know, have so much story behind, like all the pain. And I almost feel like people need pain in their life, man. Like, you need to go through a heartbreak. You need to, you know, for me, that's what really sparked me out with a heartbreak, right? Because I remember doing a job interview, and back in college, and I went in. This is so stupid. I went in for like a technical artist position. And my dumb ass was thinking, oh, cool. Like, you're gonna be an artist, right? And not really so much of the technical aspect. But I went in. And, you know, I was having a good conversation with these guys. These guys were from EA, and they were like, hey, towards the end of the conversation, they were like, do you know this job is more programming? Do you have any more? Do you have any code to show us any stuff that tailors to the position? I was like, oh, I don't. You know, and so I showed him my portfolio, and the guy was like, you know, oh, cool, this good, okay, whatever. And there was another dude at the end of the table, and I think he was more the art side. And he looked at me. He was like, "Hey, what I would recommend doing is, you know, really focus on yourself. Draw every single day. Because at the moment you're just not there, right? And as a young artist, a young man,
it's heartbreaking.
My girlfriend, my wife girlfriend at the time, she picked me up, and I broke down. I was crying hard. Right. Because I'm a sentimental man. Like, I am of course. Fucking sentimental. I cry whenever I can. And then, but the funniest thing happened. Like, instead of choosing to stop and you know, pursuing, I said, I doubled down, and I used that person as a chip on my shoulder. Right. Like, so I had a chip on my shoulder, a big one. And I wanted to prove him wrong. Right? But he didn't even know, but I actually look back, and I thank him for doing that, because, you know, if it wasn't for that judgment, that point of like that turning point, I don't think I would have been in this situation. Right. You know?
Well, and I think every failure is like, it's like you're going in a direction, and the failure is like a nudge in the correct direction. You know? Because it's like, you know, you're not meant to, you know? And the entire point of an art journey is finding exactly what you want to do specifically. And there are people that like are meant to be technical artists, you know, they just grind on making effects or something, you know. And I think that like for me, I had a little bit of a side at this like studio that was doing like Star Wars work or something, Star Wars VFX. And I'm not a storyboard artist. I don't understand that shit at all. And I just did some really shitty storyboards, and I got turned down, and I was like, I was super bummed out, obviously, you know. I was like, oh man, maybe that's not my path, you know? And I think the real difficult thing about being an artist is not doing the work. It's like finding the thing that you can wake up every day and like do and love it, you know? Work is finding that work, you know?
But I mean, do you think you love it every day?
No, absolutely not.
I think it's just like a marriage in a sense. There's some days where you even said it. There's some days where, you know, you suck at it. You know, and you're grinding the hell out of it. You're like, oh my God, there's nothing coming out of me today. You know?
Right.
And it is what it is. It's just like a marriage where you do have days like that. And you just fight over shoe placements. And shit.
Well, and I always think it's like letting go of expectations, you know? Like if you expect yourself to do a good drawing, you're not going to do a good drawing.
That sucks. Man. I fall guilty on that because I do have expectations. And I'm like, do I flash your eye?
No. That's totally fine. You're good.
But I do have those moments where I'm like, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Bigger, you know? And and faster.
I should be better, right?
Like, what the fuck? Just chill out, man. Like, live in a moment. And really, I started living in a moment after having a kid. And it slowed me down a lot in a good way, honestly. In the beginning, it was a little weird. And I told you that how it was difficult because, you know, inside of us, we have this, you know, this creative child or this creativity that we want to, you know, feed. And then if you merge that with your ego, with, you know, how you use social media and all that crap, it becomes a deadly circle and a vicious circle, actually. And so it was good for me just to detach from everything and like really put myself in a weird position and just focus, you know,
right.
It's weird.
Well, and again, I think it keeps getting harder and harder, you know, it's like, you know, I was at the Frazetta Museum a couple months ago or like a month ago or so, or a few weeks ago. But and like Frazetta had a stroke at one point, and he couldn't use his right hand, you know. So it's like, as an artist, you know, that's like you know, you can't draw anymore, you know. It's like it messes you up.
Start using your toes and stuff.
Well, I think he started using his left hand and stuff. But it's like, you know, from like an external point of view, it's like his left-handed drawing wasn't as technically sound and as his right-handed drawing, but it doesn't matter, you know. It's just, as long as you enjoy doing it.
It's weird. It's almost like, have you ever tried doing it?
Yeah.
So it's like your brain knows what it wants from the dominant hand. But what I find really beautiful is actually how freeing it is when I draw with my left hand.
Right.
How I don't have to focus on that perfect line. It has its own characteristic, and I cannot replicate it with my right hand. I can't do it. Like if I do a drawing with my left, I cannot replicate it.
Absolutely. Well, and I you know, that there's that thing that people say where it's like your style is just like a culmination of all your flaws and all your mistakes, you know. And I think it's exactly right.
It is.
Like, and your ability to like be okay with your own mistakes and your own weaknesses, you know. And again, it's like those failures are pointing you in a direction.
Like laughing at it. You gotta laugh at it sometimes.
Dude, right.
You know, you gotta laugh at it.
So
well, when people take it too damn serious, I see this a lot in art battles. When I'm about to battle and somebody looks so damn serious or like, you know, ready, motherfucker, I'm gonna tear you down.
Right.
And I'm just enjoying it. Like I'm having a good old time. If I know I'm gonna fail, like today, I'm doing spray paint. I've never done spray paint before. And I got some cheap paint inside my garage, and I'm spray painting, getting high with that crap. And I'm thinking, this is gonna be fun.
You know,
this is gonna be hella fun.
Absolutely, Well, I remember, especially as like a younger kid going to school, like I would get frustrated at myself when I wouldn't like perform to what I think I should be doing. You know, and the more I'm like, it doesn't matter. You know, it's just drawing. You could do whatever you want.
And the thing is, you don't even know what you should be doing.
Right.
You know, I'm like, it's so stupid. It's so. Thing called life is it's just a silly rage.
Well, I think like people get obsessed with art because of that initial like somewhat like toxic or like, you know, unhealthy drive to like prove someone wrong or to be better or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it turns into something that's like over time it becomes like a really positive internal thing that you do, you know. And I think it's like the people that I admire most creatively, you know.
So are you saying that art starts from a dark place?
I think so. Yeah,
I think so too. Right?
I mean, in the same way that like, you know, like something like Star Wars or all these like IPs that like as a culture we love, we obsess about.
Yeah,
they're very dark stories. You know?
Yeah,
it's like you get to visit the genocidal maniac inside of yourself.
Holy cow! Don't say that. Yeah. Well, I do have a dark side, bro.
Like, yeah. Well, like the Darth Vader. Yeah. You know, it's like people obsess about Darth Vader, but he's like worse than Hitler.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you look at the grand scheme.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
It is.
Yeah.
It is dark.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, what about the writers that wrote him?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know. Well, the analogy that I hear a lot is like Junji Ito, the guy who did I can't remember his comics, but he does a bunch of really fucked up horror comics.
I think I've seen that. It's like, does he use a lot of like eyes and
I think so.
Within like a girl's hair. I've seen some.
It's like ultra gore. Like,
I think I've seen that.
But like him personally, he's like a very upbeat dude, you know. And
dude, well, the funny thing is, like, and I started realizing this behind every. So, the happier a person is, the more I think they know the darkness within them. Yeah. But it's like finding the balance. You have to be able to control those.
The impulses, right?
Yeah. But you almost have to control that side, right? Yeah. And if you don't know your dark side, in a sense, you kind of fucked.
Well, I think you have to like integrate it. Yeah. You know, it's like part of it is like comes from a spiritual perspective where it's like to expect yourself to be like the perfect person, to be like the Buddha or the Jesus Christ or
you know the story behind Buddha, right? Buddha, not Buddha. What the hell?
That's Buddha.
Yeah, Buddha, Texas, right? I call it Buddha. People get pissed off out there. The story behind him, right?
Yeah. No, I don't.
Well, how he was like a rich prince.
Okay, I know about that.
You know, right. You know, wanted to suffer a little bit, and then he got this wholesome perspective. But I feel like we all have to go through that.
Well, but I feel like every idyllic figure in our culture has, like, for Jesus Christ, it's like the 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, or for like Aragorn, he spent like 150 years just like running around the woods trying to defeat Sauron. And then not trying to be king.
And maybe for you, it's traveling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know? And you're accumulating all this suffering.
Yeah. It does suck at certain points.
Especially right now, like you're burnt. It's okay.
Well, and I think it's like every time I talk to people, it's like you don't remember the really awesome points. You remember the suffering. You remember and how you reacted to the suffering.
Why is that? That really annoys me, man. Because you know, when you have your own family, it's one of those things that you don't appreciate the good times until the shit times come, you know?
Yeah.
And it's almost like that saying, like this shall pass, this too shall pass kind of thing, where when you're going through a crappy time in your life, you just got to stop and just appreciate the suffering a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because good times might be around the corner or maybe around the bend or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And because I almost feel like I get into a pity potty mode where I'm like, I'm in this shit. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you know, that's when you ask me the question, do you work out or do you do anything like that?
Yeah.
Those moments take me out of that doom and gloom moment and gives me a wider perspective. I'm like,
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I remember listening to Alex Honnold, the guy who did Free Solo. Like he climbed El Cap without ropes.
Dude! Have you seen his fingers?
Yeah. He's fucking nuts.
Dude, his fingers are flat like little frogs, man.
Well, he was saying that like he's able to like spiritually be very calm because he like works himself. He gets worked by nature all the time. You know, like crazy hikes, crazy climbs and stuff where it's profoundly uncomfortable, you know? Yeah. But then he comes home and he's like, oh, my nice little house, this is perfect, you know?
What is more uncomfortable, mental or physical uncomfort?
I think mental for sure, you know? Mental, like, I would way rather, I mean, it's all relative, you know? Like, if I have some flesh-eating disease that I can't control, you know? But like, I think that, the mental side of it is by far way more painful to people, you know? I think, I mean, people will. I'm in the same boat as a lot of people, where it's like something I said in 5th grade that was embarrassing sticks with me to this day, you know. And it's like
What is it? Can you share?
I know. No, I mean, I did like making a bad joke in class or something, or you know, just like dumb stuff like that, and like nothing specific that comes to mind.
Yeah.
But there is stuff that like, oh man, oh God.
I know.
And it's like I would way rather just been punched in the stomach or something.
And it still feels fresh, doesn't it? I had something like that in during football, man, and where during I don't even know. I should share it.
Yeah.
It's funny as hell though. It's one of those things where it caught me off guard, and I was like, it just stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, and I think people's childhoods and all that kind of stuff, like people want to go back and like redo stuff or remember stuff or like, you know.
And I still try to do that. You know, like for example, when I was a little kid, I used to play acorn fight a lot. So I would, you know, all the kids around the neighborhood would gather these acorns and just like throw them at each other. And then we would create these little forts. And you could just hear the dinging and dangling on the board when you start throwing these acorns. And I started to do that now, like with my little nieces and nephews. I'm like, I have an acorn tree in the back. I'm like, this is God given.
Right.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And so I started collecting these things and just I play around so much, bro. Like, and then that kind of brings out the inner child, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes drawing doesn't even bring out that inner child. Right. I've started getting into a point where with drawing, especially, it doesn't bring that same satisfaction much anymore. Right. So that's why I started going more like sculpting and painting, you know, in other words, trying to develop other sides of my creative, you know, journey just to at least uplift that side.
Well, I think it's kind of a cliche, but people say journey before destination. And I think that's true. Like the journey of becoming a better artist is way more fun than the actual execution of doing great artwork. You know? And I think it's part of the reason why AI is so dangerous to people's psyche, because it's like, oh, like why would I create it? You know, this thing does it way better.
It really does fuck with people's minds, man. I think it's more the ethical side of it. Now, if it was just doing stuff out of its own without feeding, you know, we could quickly go dive into it. But if it wasn't doing that, it would have been dope. Because at first I was using it and I was like, oh man, like, you know, it was presenting a crappy drawing, but I could see like what is the potential on it, right? It was like looking at a cloud. Yeah. But now, dude, it's like,
it's sketchy.
Oh God, it creates amazing artwork quickly within seconds. Only $5.99, baby. Right. You know, but it's one of those things that I feel for a lot of people, man. Like it's some weird, dark, creative times. And for those people that are using AR art, I mean, it's not really art, man. Just give me your prompt and I'll create the same thing. Somewhat close, right? I mean, again, we talked about how artists were afraid of sharing reference. Now people are afraid of sharing prompts.
Well, and you know, people are getting obsessed about the identity side of it. You know, like people that might have never drawn in their lives, they're becoming like, oh, I'm creating this great artwork. You know,
pick up a pencil and do some shit. Like,
well, and I think it's like I'm almost okay with it, but it's the identity stuff that I'm kind of worried about. You know, and it's like, oh man, like you should be careful about like there's a Carl Jung quote. I think it's like be afraid of unearned wisdom. You know, where it's like if you haven't earned this thing, you don't treat it well enough, and it can drive you crazy. Like you know, you know, if you start tying a big portion of your identity to, you know, this attention you're getting from this AI stuff you're creating.
Well, not to mention if you are an AR artist or whatever you want to call them. And then you get regular people calling you out saying, man, that's not art. Inside of you, you're going to feel the same way as if somebody told you, oh, you can't sketch for shit, you know? Is it okay if I cuss?
Oh, yeah, fuck
I was like, all right, cool, man. I feel like taking the shit right now. I'm just joking. But yeah, man, it's like they all have these weird avenues that only with time we're going to find out how it's going to present itself. And I think it's going to be dark. I think it's psychologically, people are going to get really screwed up, man.
Well, I think the actual artists themselves and then the people creating this stuff out of nothing. And I think it goes kind of go back to the shadow thing of like for the individual, for the person listening to this podcast, like it doesn't really matter what other people think of you. You know, it matters how you react to it. You know, it's like no matter what, there's things that you feel like you have to do every day, whether it's like working out, eating, you know, like I think everyone has like an ideal day in their head. And they don't meet it a lot of the time, you know? And the goal is to meet it no matter what. Like, even if World War III is coming, like, you still can't stop eating healthy, you know? And those justifications of like, oh man, none of this stuff matters, I'm going to stop doing what I really care about.
Yeah.
That's the mistake, you know?
Yeah.
Like to stop creating is the mistake,
yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
you know?
Dude, I actually had a moment where I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And I had a deep talk with my wife about it. And I was like, I don't know if I want to chase this path anymore, because like it's almost like a dime a dozen now, right? Like everybody and their mama wants to do it, you know? Yeah. And so, I mean, of course, there's money, but you can make money off of it. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier with Gumroad and just tutorials and stuff like that, YouTube.
Yeah.
But if your character isn't aligned to it, is it easy to, you know, kind of like mold your character to fit that mode, like to be a YouTuber or a podcast or whatnot? Right. You know what I'm getting?
Yeah. Right.
Is it possible to shift yourself?
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable at all to show yourself.
I think so. Again, it goes back to the expectations thing. It's like you expect yourself to be this specific kind of content creator when you could be anything, you know. You could do like golfing videos, or you could just like take videos of grass growing, and then it might get views, you know. And it's like I was watching a video with Modern Day James and his girlfriend, and it was about the Flesh Pit National Park. And it's this like fictional national park that people came up with. And it's like a Cthulhu-esque like flesh pit thing that, you know, it has been turned into a national park. And there's like posters behind it, like a bunch of like fauna illustrations and all this stuff, like tons and tons of work. And there's like hour-long documentaries on it on YouTube. Whoa. And it's like, it's so wacky, right? It's like that's creativity, you know.
Well, I might just end up doing something like that. Which is people that I work with, you know, they know me by. I end up drawing a lot of penises, right? There's something about it. Like, it's so funny, dicks, dude. It's so funny, man. It makes me laugh, right? And whenever somebody does that to me, like my wife does that, like if I'm having a rough day, right? It's so funny. She might draw something for me, right? A little penis, and that makes me fucking laugh, dude. It's so maybe there's a little screw in there. Maybe I need to do a little like a book about that.
Draw some dicks, dude.
Yeah.
Like really.
Like no one has drawn. Remember that movie Superbad?
Oh yeah, where he's drawing dicks. So I mean, no one's made an art book on drawing dicks. You know, everyone's doing just guys standing around with swords.
Yeah, like muscular man.
Yeah. Like, guys with hoods and you know this concept art spear guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my god, that damn spear guy, dude.
Yeah. But like you know. If you drew dicks again, it's like it's a creative, interesting idea, you know, and it's like it almost doesn't matter that like there's a market for that, just like well drawn penises.
Oh, that's hilarious.
You know? And there's the humor behind it, but then there's the like artistic expression of it too. Like, this is funny. You know?
Is,
it's like
dude,
it makes me feel something, you know.
It's already giggling right now. You should have. You know what? You should have drew one.
Yeah.
You know what?
I'll draw it
later on.
Yeah. Well, I think like Kim Jong-gi, he's like a perfect example of that. Or, you know, he drew like bestiality stuff.
Yeah,
like,
he drew
all this
a lot of crazy stuff.
Crazy stuff. You know.
Yeah, man.
And,
can I tell you a quick story about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I used to study. I used to study his work so much, right?
Yeah.
That I drew one of his like little sexual pieces, whatever, and I took a picture of it. And you know, when with photo streaming on Apple, it goes to like all the devices, right?
Yeah.
So my little niece, she was on my iPad, and she was looking at my, and she saw it, like, holy cow, like what is this? Yeah, so that was a trip, man.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like the presentable reality, like there's presentable work, which is like guys standing around, or you know, some Superman superhero thing or whatever. But then there's like a part of being a person that's like somewhat unspoken. You know, it's like sexuality. I don't think is represented.
No, man, it's never.
Well,
it's like a taboo, right?
Yeah. There's like taboo things you can't do and draw, and I think like, it's like the creative, like commercial, like the most commercial and creative things I think are kind of walking that line between like way too inappropriate and like just appropriate enough to be presentable, like Oppenheimer or something. I'm sure, like I haven't seen it yet. It's probably it's like a crazy idea to make a video or like a movie about that, or like I'm trying to think of what else, but like I think something that's interesting and new is what captures people's attention, you know. And again, the job of a creative person is to like find the thing that gets you excited to keep drawing, you know. And I think the problem is like people get into a niche, people have expectations for what.
Dude, and niche is a curse and a blessing at the same time.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a curse, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it's like captivating because like, oh, I'm getting all this attention. I'm known as this dude that does these like graphite sketches or, anime girls or whatever, and then you're stuck doing that.
You're stuck. Yeah. So I see it more with graffiti world, right? Like with the graffiti artists that I meet, they have a thing that they draw constantly, right? Because that's what people know them for. So whenever they're doing something like in Seattle or versus doing something in Italy, and they see what they draw, people are gonna easily recognize them, right? Which it makes sense. It's more of a marketing thing, but I don't know how they're able to paint it constantly. I think the challenge behind it is it's having it each time look the same. That's maybe art in itself, right? Maybe, but for like in our industry, let's say drawing women constantly all the time, women sell. The art that will sell like this versus like a man drawing, unless it's like a fantasy sexy motherfucker. Then he might sell, right? But I just don't understand like this. What I don't know whether it's just me being cynical, maybe.
I don't know. I think everyone is having these feelings too, especially with AI coming out, and I think it's like the thing I talk about a lot is it's like doing art at all is a dumb idea. It's like everyone should just be a lawyer or doctor or something, and the thing that people are paying you for is that like bravery to go and do something new, do something interesting and stuff. And that like creative spirit, it's sometimes really difficult to try and pursue because you have like moments in your life when you're not as brave as you were when you started or something. And, I mean, I have days where I feel like I don't want to do anything. I just want to play video games and hang out. And
it's like you have versions of yourself within yourself, right? You have a shy guy, the courageous, the fearful.
Well, and you're everything, and it's like
encapsulated, kind of like In and Out.
The
movie. Well, that's more emotion based. But you get what I'm saying. Like,
absolutely.
We all have these hats inside.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it goes back to like knowing yourself, where it's like understanding those moments in your childhood where you like might have felt embarrassed or ashamed of something that you did, and then not like beating yourself up over it, like not being ashamed, being like, oh man, I'm just a person. Everyone has everyone makes mistakes.
So
no one is
sense,
perfect.
Allowing yourself to feel it, to actually digest it, right? Because a lot of people, we just compartmentalize
try to ignore it and stuff.
Move on, and years later we like just sipping a beer, and then we started cracking like, I started crying for no reason, because we've been holding it in for so damn long.
Well, and I think that's like actual integration and actual like knowing yourself is like and understanding yourself of like like maybe I was like a little bit of like a cringy kid when I was younger or something, or it was like a little bit of a shit on video games at one point, and
you're like, you suck balls.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
really?
Like,
you were one of those kids? Oh, you're so mean, dude.
Yeah.
Fucked my mind. That's why I stopped playing Call of Duty Zombies. God damn.
Well, but it's like, looking at yourself and be like, oh man, that I don't like that person that I was.
Does it make you feel awkward, ashamed?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. In the same way, everyone has moments like that. But then be like, that's okay. That's who I am.
Shame is like one of the lowest energies that you could get. That sucks you dry, bro. If you live in shame, people will lead into drug abuse, all that crap. It might be I might be overstating it, but
I
shame is one of those strong emotions that really fuck with you.
People get obsessed about things that happen to them and stuff. And again, like understanding them and like. And accepting that you're not the perfect person and you never will be, I think is like, okay, that's who I am. That happened to me, you know?
But you got to be in a different state of mind to even confront, to even say that, oh, I was a different person, right? Because maybe you're still in that emotion and you're just like not able to see or forgive yourself, right? You just constantly, because negative emotion is a very addicting thing, like you feel addicted and it makes you feel a particular way. And so... Yeah, man, it sucks, dude. I felt that one time. You like that little drip? You saw I saw you look at it. You got a good eye, bro.
It's getting toasty.
I like it. Nah, man, but
yeah,
it's one thing that I think as artists we all have to confront those emotions to really fine tune our craft. You know,
absolutely.
And keeping it sharp is one of those challenges that we all, even like old artists, go through. And you told me,
like you could totally lose it too.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And it's a fearful thing.
Yeah.
To lose that ambition.
I remember hearing a lecture from Steve Jobs. It was like a commencement speech, and he's like, you start with nothing and you end with nothing. Yeah. Like you start as a baby that doesn't know anything, and then you die with no possessions.
So then, real quick then, if art is a selfish act, right? Why can't we spend our time helping each other out? Like putting other artists, like giving a helping hand. Yeah. Right? Because I almost feel like in our community, it's very cliquish. Yeah. It's all about who you know. Thing.
Absolutely.
And I hated it. Like I've always hated that, you know. Yeah. And I tried my best to
kind of step outside of it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And so, it's a weird thing.
Well, I think it's all about like trying to step outside yourself, and like for art that you create, it is selfish, but then creating something that people actually want, you know, people that like and taking yourself out of the equation and being like, oh man, like if you're really into making fan art, like make fan art for people, you know, like people really resonate with your graphite drawings and like people love it, you know, and it's like they're almost like removing you from the equation entirely.
Yeah, true.
You know,
true. I can't draw like a Spider-Man or a Wolverine. I just can't stand it.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like a lot of people won't gravitate towards a lot of my work because it's a hit or miss. Like if I draw something that really connects with the heart, it'll connect.
Yeah.
But if it's super weird, which a lot of my work can be pretty weird, people won't connect with it, you know, because they don't know. The masses won't understand it, you know. And we talked about it yesterday, how, you know, if you are drawing a lot of those characters, people know it and they will buy it, right? And I just don't want to get tied up in that situation where I have to do that to make a living, right? You know, a part of me wants to do something different and have my art on the side so I could still be free, right, to express myself, you know, without having that financial constraint.
Yeah, the pressure of doing things you don't want to
do. Exactly.
And I think that's always a struggle. And like I think the more you try to search for it, the harder it is to actually get, you know.
Is it egotistical though? Do you think it's egotistical of me to say that?
No.
To say that.
To say what specifically?
Like not to, like I don't want to go draw the mainstream stuff.
No, it's not at all. I think it's like, again, I think everything is like an act of bravery.
True.
Like doing it is an act of bravery, and not doing it is an act of bravery. Too. And there's no wrong decision.
That's a good perspective. Yeah.
You know, it's like, again, if you go back into more the shoulds of what you should be drawing, it inevitably ends up to you should be a doctor. You know, you should be a policeman. You should be all these things. And it's like the more you get caught up in what you should be doing, the less you're able to really focus on who you are. You know. Yeah. Like I think that again, everyone walks about the world. Like when you walk down the street, you know, everyone sees a different street, even though they're walking down the same street. Like maybe somebody pays attention to the classic cars, and somebody pays attention to the coffee shops.
That's good.
Or the clothes in the windows, or any of that kind of stuff. And everyone is geographically in the same place, but spiritually they're all over the place. You know. And it's like you could be in Italy and have the same exact experience you would have here. You could go to McDonald's and have a Big Mac in Italy, you know.
Do you gravitate more towards ancient architecture, that kind of stuff, like Europe versus the Caribbeans, like beaches and stuff like that?
I don't know what I gravitate towards. I'm like, I mean, I like San Diego a lot. Yeah. It's just like the temperature and stuff. And I lived in Cambridge for about 6 months. I really like that too. You know, likable cities and stuff. I don't know really. I mean, it's like.
I know it's a random question. Me personally, I love like the heat. I love the tropical weather.
Yeah,
I can't stand. I've never been to Europe. Yeah, I might love it. Who knows? But it's one of those things I never really. My heart doesn't really connect with that place.
Well, and like understanding that about yourself, I mean, like I don't feel any particular urge to. You know, it's like I don't have to go. You know, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And you know, like anyone that's listening to this, like you don't have to travel around the country in the way that I'm doing to like find yourself. Like do it by like walking down the street or like, you know, getting a job at a coffee shop or something, you know.
Well, what about this? What about like talking to people in general? Because when you're talking to people, you're getting a reflection of yourself in a sense, right?
Right.
Like, you're helping me understand myself in a different way.
Yeah.
Like when you were talking about like maybe that's a bravery for them to draw that subject matter versus. No.
Well, I think what I get from talking from different people is like an affirmation of like some hypotheses that I have about what it's like to be an artist, you know, where it's like everyone is anxious. Everyone struggles with like some amount of self-doubt and stuff. And it's like every person I've talked to who's affirmed that belief is like, oh, that is correct for me to believe that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, like if I keep knowing this thing about like, I'm sure that anxiety exists, it's something that I will come across the longer that I exist, then trying to think of strategies to like integrate that into myself and understand it, you know, that's like the point of me talking to all these people, you know.
That's beautiful, man. How's it going, man? Doing great, dude.
Yeah, we've been going for about an hour or so.
That's perfect, dude.
Yeah. Do you wanna call it here?
Yeah, we start calling it, man.
Well, how should people follow you?
Arm is burnt.
Yeah, my feet are. It's like I'm covered in sweat.
Yeah. So follow wise, you can follow me on Instagram. Our station it's all the same handle pretty much. It's Villarrte, VILLARRTE.
I'll put it in the description.
Put it in the description. It's fine, man. Yeah, but a lot of people don't pronounce it. Like this one time, I put it on. I was on YouTube and somebody goes Villarrte or
Villarrte. I say Villarrte.
Or sometimes it just sounds like a venereal disease.
Villarrte.
Weird.
Yeah.
But Villarrte. So. Yeah, man, you can follow me there.
Nice, cool.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, brother. Like,
thanks so much.
Really good. Nice and sweaty.
Fuck yeah, dude. I'll see you there.